Thank you. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of Bella Vista City Council work session for September 16. First item is review of the minutes of August 26th, the regular meeting. So I think you had a copy in your packet. Any comments on that? Okay, under unfinished business, looks like we didn't have any. New business, there's an ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding, authorizing a contract with Superior Automotive Group, the amount not to exceed $143,000 for the purchase of two 2024 Chevy Tahoes, fully equipped police vehicles. Chief Graves, did you want to say a few things about this?
So these are for two already budgeted in capital, fully equipped police vehicles. what we're starting to try to do is, in the past, you've seen the vehicles come separate as far as purchasing. And we put the equipment on, buy that later on. Superior Automotive, we're working with them now, and they are giving us our vehicles fully equipped. It's a better deal for us in reality. And it does save us in some tax money along the way. So it's been so hard finding vendors that actually outfit our police vehicles to get them done. Superior's doing this, they're doing this for a lot of the agencies around here. It seems to be working out pretty good. So that's why the vehicle itself is around $54,000, and the equipment's around $16,000 and change. And you put that together, that's how we come up with this amount of money for 2 vehicles.
What happened to the Dodge Durangos? Are still getting
We're
those?
still getting those. We're just mixing. We're doing a mixture of the fleet because the Durangos, I'm not ready to go. They're a little less expensive, but I'm not ready to go all in on them because we haven't had them long enough. We just started getting them in the fleet this year. We did about half Durangos and half Tahoes, and we're going to see how the Durango works out. We work with our streets department who does our maintenance, and they kind of tell us, they check the oil on the vehicles as in, they send it in to see how the engines hold up. And so the jury's still kind of out on the Durangos, whether or not, yes, the Tahoe's more expensive, but in the end, do we get a longer life out of it than the Durango? That's kind of what we can have.
So do you have the Durangos yet?
Yeah, we do. We have I think 4 Durangos we got this year. We've had Durangos before as admin vehicles, but we just started putting them in patrol this year. We have 4, and I think we just have the first 2 out on the streets now.
So is that about 20? Is it about 20 grand per vehicle, or less than 20? The Tahoe's over the Durango.
The Tahoe's about 11,000 more than the Durango. So it's still substantial, but it's not as much.
But the Tahoes, you can't get them under the state.
Yeah, the Tahoes are not under the state bid. Just nobody does it because it's just, they found that they're so sporadic in being able to get inventory. None of the dealerships in Arkansas are willing to do a state bid on them, and that's why they're always a competitive bid right now.
Yeah.
But the Superior orders them ahead for us. They're the only dealership that will hold them for us. In that any other dealership, I say, hey, can you get me the Tahoe? As soon as they come in, they'll expect us to pay for them. That's just not how we do things.
Okay. Any more questions? Thank you. Appreciate it. Next one is an ordinance approving an application for a private club alcohol permit submitted by the Bella Vista POA. And Jason, I think this is a slight change in procedure, isn't it, that the state started requiring this?
We've done this before, actually. State law will grant a private club alcohol permit, but first the city, or if it's in the county has to take action through its governing body to approve. And so what you have is an ordinance that would approve that. I was trying to remember when we did this before, and I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago, and it was for a POA facility as well. This one, if you look at the application, this is again from the POA. This is to provide to get private club alcohol state permit at the newly renovated Tanu Creek Golf Practice Facility. I guess they're going to have, what they've indicated to us is they're going to have some sort of food in there as well. It's going to be, what they had out there, and then I think there's going to be a golf simulator in there or something. Anyway, it's kind of going to be that. But in any event, they have got to get your approval before the state will approve them, and they are asking for that. And their state application is in the packet, and the proposed ordinance is in the packet.
So why a private club?
Well, that's the club that that's the permit that they've applied for. So they are a private club, and most of it, if you look in the application, they have a list of all of their existing permits, and they already have a private club permit at Reardon, one at Metfield, one at Scottsdale. Already, they do have some retail beer on premises and others. I'd have to defer to them to explain why they're seeking the permit.
It's immaterial. I just wondered why a private club permit over just a permit to serve alcohol. I mean, Benton County being wet.
Let's remember a gas, like facility for,
I just can't answer that. I mean, the alcohol permitting process at the state level is quite overly complicated, I'll just tell you that. There's a permit for every little thing, it seems like, so I'm not versed in it enough to just be able to talk about them all, but I can just tell you that there are a lot.
Isn't there a difference between a general permit where you can serve beer and wine and spirits versus those that can only allow beer and wine?
Right.
So there's
There's
separation.
that, and then there's
And so this
native
may-
wines.
This may open the door for all three categories, if you will. Private club alcohol permit, I'm not sure.
If you've been around Benton County long enough to remember before it was wet, all the restaurants in Bentonville and Rogers, they'd have the book, you'd have to go sign the book, because they all had private club permits, so they were all operating as private clubs.
Yeah. I did notice they had quite a list of locations, POA did, where they have alcohol already. It's a little longer list than I would have thought.
Was Blowing Springs the other permit that we dealt with last? It might have been.
They have a listing for a permit there. They say that's a retail beer permit.
Yeah.
I can go back and find out. I just don't remember which one it was.
So it's a procedure for the state alcohol.
Before the state law says they have to get a permit from the council first, and then the state may grant them a permit based on, but this is one of their checkoffs they've got to do before they can get a state permit. And it's a highly valued opinion from the state about whether you want to grant it or not. Of course, if you don't grant it, then they're not going to get one.
Well, I'm encouraged by some of the recent POA things. You know, they have BB 65, it's going to open soon, be a barbecue type thing with alcohol. And this location, you know, making the driving range a lot better, I think is going to be a big plus. People will like that. I call this the Top Golf effect. You know, I was reading recently that this was just shocking to me. 20% of the people who play golf in the U.S. don't ever plan a course. All they do is go to the driving ranges and Top Golf and things like that. Yeah, that's a really way higher percentage than you would think.
How much, 20%?
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's been a big change, really.
Wow.
So,
Well, it's a
anyway,
moneymaker for them, it's additional revenue. is what
Yeah,
it boils down
yeah.
to.
In other words, it's an excuse to drink beer.
yeah.
You can go and watch your friends play.
And I think I admire them for the POA for adjusting to the times. You know, they got into the pickleball. You know, if something becomes popular, they get involved in it. I think that's a good idea. So you should be responsible to the supply and demand, right? So. Okay, next one is C. It's a resolution amending the 2024 budget to appropriate $10,000 to the street department for purposes of paying cleanup-related expenses due to the August storm events. And if you look at item C, this is actually this is within what we talked about the other week. That was up to a max of $150,000, but this was technically a separate rental of this equipment, and so that's why they had to have this separate resolution for it.
not asking for more money.
Yeah, it's really not $10,000 more money, it's the same thing they were talking about the other week.
So this is not an addition on top of the 150 then?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, correct, it's not, yeah, so. Okay,
How is it going? I mean, I still see, I mean, I'm going to be the last person going to be critical of this because it's a big job, right?
Yeah.
On our streets. Do we know about how far through the process we are? We're getting close?
well, I think they're pretty far along. They counted up, and they had 400 streets that had damages and needed debris pickup. And the tricky part about it was it came right when they were doing the paving, and then the slurry came right after. And you know, our street department goes in front of those guys and preps the street. We had a street committee meeting the other day, and they had a map and they had everything all charted out about it. So, but the challenge is they had to do the debris pickup, cleanup at the same time they were getting ready for the asphalt and then getting ready for the slurry. And the way those guys have always worked, we get a little bit better price bid because we let them come, they say, oh, okay, I'm coming the first week of September, and we don't say, oh, no, that's not good, come some other time. Whenever they say they're coming, because they've got cities all over the place, they're trying to piece them together. So it ended up being quite a challenge for them. So I think they've got a few more weeks yet, but they're hacking away at it.
Are they about half done? They got 200 streets done, you think?
They had a whole bunch more than that map. They had the whole map out and
Yeah,
it looked about halfway, I wouldn't say speak out of turn, but it looked about halfway-ish.
yeah,
They're just
yeah, that's
trying
probably
to
a
haul
good call.
as fast as they
Sure.
can.
Yeah. So it's ironic, it was just look, fortunately, it was just in part of the city and some other parts, kind of like debris, what are you talking about? They were totally untouched, so.
Mayor, on that prior item, I found the information. That alcohol permit, we did in 2017. It's been longer ago than what I thought. And it was to approve a private club permit at Medfield. That's what that was.
Oh, okay, good. So anyway, that's the street cleanup. The next one is a resolution authorizing and levying the millage rate of ad valorem real and personal property tax for the city of Bella Vista, Arkansas for the year 2024 to be collected in 2025. This is arguably the most important thing we do the whole year. And I got a letter from them, they needed it by October 20. So we couldn't wait till the October meeting, so we had to get it going now. And what I have proposed is the same as last year, except last year was 5.5 mils and now it's 6 because they passed the extra half mil for police.
So we still have a half mil, right?
You have one. You still have one. You
Yeah.
Still got 1 mil.
Yeah, we have 4 mills on the general that you do without tax approval. You can go up to 5. So, yeah, we've had that 1 mill sitting there for a while. So this is calling for 6. I had another item come up today, I'll just mention briefly. We'll say it's item E. It might be E, F, and G. Anyway, it's the sculpture leases for the trail. They don't come up until June, but it's gotten more and more competitive with the artists. More and more cities are doing this. So Denver wanted to get them signed up. And so therefore because it's a lease, it has to be approved by council. It's still the same price. It's $1,800 each, so it's $5,400. It's in the budget. And the people are John Ross of Morgantown, North Carolina. He would be new. Joe and Terry Molesky of Stratford, Missouri. They're the ones that have that new sculpture this year that's, I forget what it's called, but it looks like a dandelion or flower of some sort. And, but this would be a different one from them. And the other one is James Douglas Cox of Republic, Missouri. We've gotten one from him every time. So anyway, so point being, we have leases for that, so I need council's approval in order to nail it down. And the artists have already signed and whatnot.
Or a packet will have all of this.
Yeah,
These will
yeah.
be add-on items.
Yeah, I just figured that out today.
So
But
they
she
won't-
told me she wanted to hurry up and get it.
But it's not billed or due until June of next year?
Well, that's when the leases actually start, yeah. But we're entering into them now, yeah. So,
Getting a lead on our competitions, what we're doing. It doesn't cost us anything today, we're just agreeing on the contract.
So these sculptures, they're down behind the bike shop now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drove by there, actually a couple times in the last week. It's not like it was packed down there, but I was surprised. There were several cars and several people down there walking, and they had their kids, and so it's drawing attention,
yeah,
for sure, yeah.
and they're kind of improving, Waltons are improving the area where the tree house was. I think they're going to expand that some. So I think eventually that park's going to be pretty popular because the greenway is going to go over there. it'll make a big difference, so. But already it's getting, if you go on the weekend, it's a challenge to park in that parking lot. You know, they're looking at trying to figure out something about that. So it's a good thing. So with that, we're ready for discussion items. First one is Smart Septic Week proclamation. And I'm gonna, because this is the week, I'm gonna read the proclamation today at the work session. Mayor's proclamation, whereas proper septic system use and routine care are vital to protecting public health, preserving our highly valued groundwater, lakes, streams, and waterways, and avoiding costly repairs that can result from neglect. And whereas nearly all of the approximate 13,000 septic systems in Bella Vista treat wastewater from homes and businesses, and whereas wastewater professionals from Benton County use their expertise in the design, installation, maintenance, and regulation of septic systems in Bella Vista, and whereas the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Septic Smart program used by Arkansas health officials does educate homeowners about the need for proper septic system use and routine maintenance. And whereas residents and the environment of Bella Vista benefit from properly designed, installed, operated, and maintained septic systems, now therefore I, John D. Flynn, Mayor of the City of Bella Vista, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim the week of September 16 to 20, 2024 as Septic Smart Week in Bella Vista, Arkansas, and I urge all people to join me in this special observance. So, and I have noted, you know, we have Septic Smart handouts at all the newcomers meetings. So they've been doing a good job of getting those disseminated. You know, a lot of times it's people, as you know, moving from out of town. Many of them are on septic and may or may not be knowledgeable about it. So.
Okay, so I apologize, I was listening when you read. So that's not necessarily a local thing that you are putting forward, this is a state.
I think it's
A national event, I think.
national.
Yeah, state and national, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually, I talked to John a little bit about this, but, you know, just through a prior ordinance that we introduced, we really brought the visibility of, and concern over septic systems, you know, forward, you know, to the community as a whole. And I don't know, you know, what percentage of the residents, you know, pay a lot of attention to that, but here, I mean, you know, it's concerning, really. It concerns me, it concerns the Arkansas Department of Health. And I talked to John earlier, a couple days ago this week, and mentioned I thought I was really happy to see this on the agenda. And personally, I'd like to see like every 6 months, like appliance pickup or something like that, just a notice to the city of Bella Vista to maybe, you know, take a look at your septic, make sure your field's good, change your diversion valves, you know, in different lines, because I know a lot of people, they just don't do it. I actually had a conversation with Taylor a little bit this week and kind of checking in on if, you know, our, some septic failures that might have been taking place in Bella Vista and our awareness of them. And we've had a couple for sure, maybe more than that. But she mentioned something to me that doesn't get registered. And so, now I say call it concerning, but there could be things going on with the septic field, and I'm going to call it a septic designer. What are they called, Taylor?
Designated road.
Yeah, that they can actually have one of these people come in and work with them to fix a certain issues with the septic, and the state never becomes aware of it. So we can have some of that going on, it's flying under the radar, and we don't even know like it's happening, right? So, I don't know by resolution, I don't want to do it right now, but it really ought to be something on the city calendar a couple times a year just for awareness. And I'm sure we have the documents online for residents if they want to go get them, you know, to what they need to do to manage their septic system. And we did have, we had one septic, I don't call it failure, that actually got down on the trails. They had to shut down a portion of the trail for a little while Helen got that fixed. I know there were a couple of other septic failures. I'm not going to mention addresses or places or anything that they had to go back and fix. And these were a bigger deal than just having something that a septic designer, can come and fix for you. But that's something we really need to stay on top of. It's concerning for the community that if something like that, kind of started becoming out and getting out of hand. So anyway, I'm really glad to hear that you're bringing that forward.
And there is still no permitting process if you have an old steel septic tank, and there are still believed to be, in my opinion, many of them in Bella Vista that are changed out on a regular basis depending who you talk with. And so there's no permitting process. They just do it.
Yep.
So that's happening on apparently a regular basis from some of the contractors I've talked with. I don't know if do you see any of that, Doug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last time we questioned one of them, he told us it was a few a week.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more than one now and one next month or next 2 months or something like that. It's much more frequent than that. So we still have a lot of them, and they'll probably continue for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially with so many of them getting
So many,
old. Yeah.
yeah, so many of them are aged and probably beyond their useful life.
Yeah.
So
Okay. The next item is a $5.4 million revenue bond. I meant to pass these out for the meeting. To pass it down. I got one for you. There's 3 of them there.
I know there are. I couldn't get one of them separated.
Get them aside.
Give you the part.
So this is what I passed out as the term sheet that Raymond James is giving out to the various banks and people who might be bidding on the bonds. So this is what we call private placement bonds. So there's not quite so much public, not quite so much expense in that regard, and it also goes faster. I'll just walk through a few key items. It's Raymond James is our advisor. The amount's $5.4 million. Now this is for phase 1 and 2 of our improvement at City Hall and at Fire Station number 1. And if you look back at the record, you see you approved $6.3 million. And the reason this is 5.4, in June we passed something about this, and it could go back 60 days. So some of the money was spent before, that gave us the line of what some of the money was spent before then. So that's why it's 5, and I wasn't real concerned about that. I just wanted to borrow some of it, So that's why it's 5.4
And
million.
that was why we passed the resolution at the last meeting to
Yeah.
make those costs eligible to be put into this package.
Right. So just walking through here, it's 5.4 million. It's for 10 years. And there's a bunch of different items that, generally speaking, we're paying the principal just once a year in December. We're paying the interest twice a year. And Kim actually suggested that because it makes the total amount of interest a little lower if you pay it more often. The reason we're paying the principal once a year is that's how the banks wanted it. So, Raymond James kind of figures out what the banks want before they go out to them, so they'll get more bids. Now, we won't know the amount, the interest amount, until the bids come back, and we don't have to take them. But she kind of put feelers out ahead of time, and they were getting a rate of 4.02%, almost 4% on the notes. That was like a week or 2 ago. She just wanted to get a feel what it would be. And right now, we can get CDs that pay higher interest than that. So that's good,
That's good information.
Yeah, so we feel good about that. Anyway, they talk about having 3 times the debt service. This is secured by the franchise fees. And our franchise fees are $2.1 million a year. And the payments under this would be less than $700,000. So that's what they mean by 3 times. So that makes the banks feel really comfortable. Even if our franchise fees went down some, you know, the payment's only 700 grand, so they feel, oh, well, we have plenty of security then. So that's the point of that. So really, on the next page, it lists what all the principal payments are each year. And they may want us to have a separate little fund, but we're not gonna have a trustee or anything, so that eliminates all that expense. And we might just pay it, just like you would pay a regular bill, and not even have to have a separate fund. So, obviously, you make sure you have the money to make the payment. But so really, it's just a way, you know, we have about 15 million or so in reserve. And you could just plunk down 6 million and have 9 left. And Kim and I thought it'd be more conservative to borrow, especially since you can earn as much interest as you're paying, and spread the payments over, you know, a length of time. And we looked at a 5-year loan. That would have been a payment of 1.3, and this is a payment of less than 700,000. So you know, when you're trying to figure out your budget each year, we thought, oh, that might be a little bit of a strain, the 1.3. So that's the reason we went with the 10-year. And instead of doing one of those 5-year amendment 78 loans. So one of the pluses to this is when our 1% sales tax ends up, you can go to the voters and ask them to extend that. If we decide to do that and it was successful, you know, if the interest rates are lower, then you could just pay this off with that new bond. And if interest rates are higher, well, then you just let this run. So I think when you borrow something like this, you have to think to yourself, just assume, hey, it's going to go 10 years. You know, you don't want to make a deal if you're not willing to live with it. It's kind of like a mortgage on your house. Just assume, okay, this is going to go 10 years, and if there's some reason that it's good to pay it off sooner, we can do that. But we could live with this paying this over 10 years. So that was our mentality going into this. If interest rates go down way lower, you can always, you could even do another revenue bond, pay it off that way if interest rates were way lower. Now there is a provision in here that says something about callable on December 1, 2026. That means you can't pay it off any sooner than that. You know, the banks are saying, hey, I don't want to go to all the trouble and make a loan, and then 6 months later, you go ahead and pay it. So I thought that was pretty easy to live with. So they just have in 2 years. Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to pay it off in 2 years anyway. So I thought that was pretty easy provision to live with. So that's what it is. And because of the timing, you know, you have to get notice in the newspaper in so many days, and that's why we were calling you about the special meeting. You know, originally I asked people about October 3rd, and then Raymond James said, hey, we figured out if you did it on the 1st or 2nd, it would close that much sooner, you'd get the money like 3 weeks sooner or something. And Kim thought it would be good to get it. So that's why we're meeting October 1 at 6 p.m. We're going to have a special meeting. It's going to be in the court. We want to make it in the evening because there's also a public hearing, and people are entitled to come speak. Oftentimes no one wants to, but we want to give them the opportunity to have it at a time, you know, where they can come after work.
So the meeting on October 1st, that will be the approval of this bond issue?
Yeah, it'll be a public hearing.
Or the award?
A public hearing and the approval and award, yeah.
So they'll know what the interest rates are
Yeah.
at that time, so we'll have that.
Yeah, I think it says on here something about September 23. They'll have the bids in then and know what's the winning one. And Cheryl Schluterman of Raymond James is going to come on October 1st.
On the front page, quarter, third of the way down, September 23.
Yeah. So.
Two questions. Do we know, have we got an update on when our bond, because I was greatly accelerated payoff, do we know a little better now when you might actually pay that off.
They were still talking late in 2027, fall of
So you can't-
2027.
And you can't go back to the voters until that is paid off? Or can you go back while it's still, you can?
As long as you're after the time period when you can refund it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure when that is,
yeah.
but there's a date by which, it's sort of like this, we have to wait till a certain date before we can try to refund it.
Yeah, they usually like you to go a little bit sooner, actually, before it's paid off, so it never stops.
Gotcha.
But the other thing is, some people have suggested to me, hey, you don't have to wait till it's paid off, you can go sooner.
That's what I was asking.
But the interest rate's 1.1%, so I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
why am I gonna go sooner? What, take my 4% loan to pay off a 1% loan? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're in a financial position where you can
Yeah.
do that, right?
Yeah,
That's the key to that. And then you mentioned that we had about 15 million in, I'm going to call it unassigned funds is what we actually call it, we call it reserves, right?
yeah.
Is that after the 25% we're supposed to hold for emergencies? Because the last number we had was like.
No, that's a total.
That's the total,
Yeah.
right?
I just looked at the June 30. We're gonna get the July 30 pretty soon, but yeah. In fact, I think the unassigned was 14.2. The 15 was 15 something was the total.
Okay, so we still have to hold 25% of next year's revenue back for emergency funds out of the money you're talking about?
Yeah, the 14.2, yeah. So really,
That's a total.
most of the time I was on city council, we usually had 6 to 8 million in reserve, and we got pretty pumped up here. But on the other hand, we knew we had a lot of
Right.
CapEx and whatnot. So I guess my vision was to take it down slowly, and get back to a little lower, but no rush,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so I kind of hesitate to do this, but then I don't think I can, if you don't mind for just a minute, because the last meeting, last work session, I mentioned I did a revenue projection and expense projection through 2027, okay? And the numbers that I had projected out, and what I did too is I included the salary of the two police officers and the salaries of the two new employees at CDS. So the net of where that landed, we would have, all things, like I said, if it actually worked out like that perfectly, and we know that things change, we'd have about 1.6 million to the good. And now that's after we would pay our projected capital projects, okay? That's funding the city operation salary and benefits and our capital projects, okay? So I was continuing to kind of look at the numbers, and I was looking back at our 2024 budget, and I was looking at the streets department, and I was actually going to call Kim and ask her a question, because we basically fund a majority of our street department out of state and county turnback funds, right? Well, I was looking at that, and I see transfer to street department of $1 million. Actually, it's $1.13 million in 2024. And in my mind, I'm thinking that's the transfer for street improvements, because we do that year after year after year, right? And prior to Kim, when we had Carrie, that money was just transferred, and we knew it was being spent for that, but I don't think it was ever listed as capital as projects. But Kim made a change at some point, and what she did is she made our street improvement money part of capital projects. And I was going to ask, well, what if we fell short paying for the operation of our street department, salary, benefits, operational? Could we fund that from our general revenue funds? Or we just required, by state law or something like that we had to fund by, and I know the answer to the question, or can we transfer money from general fund into street department? The answer to that is yes. Well, I didn't catch it, but that's what we're doing here, okay? So where I'm going with this is, I didn't capture in 24, 25, 26, and 27 the money that will go from general revenue fund into the street department. Because the street department, yes, to operate our street department, right? So that $1.6 million that I had projected to the good is now, it's 6.6 million to the red, potentially. Now, we have enough money year over year to fund our local city government out of our revenue. I'm talking about operation, I'm talking about salary, and I'm talking about benefits, where we run into the problems of funding our capital projects in whole. And we know those will change, so we can always adjust those, right, if we need to. And to Kim, just as a side note, when I was having conversations and talking to Kim, she was a little nervous because she was coming up with numbers more like where I am right now. We had a disconnect. And after I looked back at it, it was like, whoa, wait a minute, oh. So now we're not directly in line with our numbers. We're within $1 million through 2027. But that's actually pretty good because it's just kind of like projectional math anyway. And her pencil's a little sharper than mine. Mine's based off of actual expenditures and actual revenue averages and projecting those forward. It's pretty simple math. So where I'm going with this is if we're looking at minus 6.6 or minus 7 point, whatever it is, this, what we're getting ready to do and borrow this money is pretty critical. We really need to do this, right? And then we're definitely probably going to have to look at this bond at some point that the voters approved and have that conversation because we need a new fire station number 5 and we probably need number 6, right? Now that's in our capital projects, but right now it's like, that's just funding, I think, the buildings and the land. I don't think that funds any of the equipment or anything that would come along with it. Chief Sims is here. Right. So that doesn't include any equipment or anything that have to go to populate either one of those fire stations to make it functional, right? So anyway, I'm just looking forward because we're going to be having budget conversations, but everybody just needs to be aware of where we are, right? And I did this for me at first, but I thought it really important to share. So I have new little packets here if you want to see them. And what I did is I took in the streets, I just added in operating expenses and I called it streets. And 1.13 for 2024, 1.2, 1.2, and 1.2, and that's kind of how Kim has it projected out, but those numbers will probably increase for the street department. So I worked those into the expenses that I did not have there before. So, and then I have the top sheet. And I also, something I don't think I said in the last meeting, I projected revenue by each revenue line, not in total. I broke each one of them out, and I projected our expenses, operational salary and benefits by department. I didn't do it as a total number because they're different, okay? And then I rolled them up into one number on this front page right here. So you're more than welcome to take a copy and look at it if you want. And are Kim and my numbers exactly in line? They're not exactly, but directionally they're pretty close.
Directionally, yeah.
So,
well, Kim kept telling me when you gave that presentation, she said, I'm actually more pessimistic than he is. And then you found that.
And I found it. And I was like, I really apologize for that, but we made this change, right, at some point, and I dismissed it.
Yeah.
So, but I caught it now. So there you go.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Anyway, he was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I'll take them. Get them.
So just remember about that special meeting. I can remind you next week. It's Tuesday, October 1 at 6 p.m. So we had appreciate everybody being willing to attend that. Actually, just in general, I will say this council's been very good about attendance and very good about attendance at special meetings too, which is challenging because it could be anytime, you know. So yeah, we've had a very good group, in my opinion, that way.
It's always the coffee and donuts that gets us there.
Yeah, I know. So next item is first youth council meeting, and that's Craig Honchel.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Next week, it's just, this is kind of a reminder that wanted to make sure that everybody knew that it's just going to be kind of a meet and greet type thing for the young folks that have applied, 5 o'clock next Monday, and it's going to be exciting. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing what their ideas and thoughts are moving forward. So this will be.
Yeah, so it's before the meeting. It's at 5 p.m. It's going to be in this room, and then the meeting will be over there. And then there will be food from a local Bella Vista Restaurant.
Very nice. But reading these applications of these kids, they're incredible.
Yeah.
They're
it's impressive.
smart, they have great ideas, and it's really just motivating and aspirational for me because they're just incredible. I'm really just pleased.
Yeah, we got a couple more in at the last, kind of at the last minute. I think we're up around 10 or 11.
Yeah.
We don't have.
It's quite a group. That's, I mean, because I know Wanda's out of town, because that's, I was going to reach out to her and get a total number, but I didn't want to bother her with
Yeah.
whatever she's got going on.
And most of them are from BHS. There's one to their homeschool and one's probably Mathaden.
Couple of
Yeah,
them.
they,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's one from Bentonville West.
Oh, nice.
Everyone's Wilson, but
Oh, West Dean, yeah.
goes there.
What I was disappointed in, we saw no one on the list. I don't know if they applied or not, but from the gravel system,
No one applied.
which was really disappointing.
Yeah, we pushed that too.
Pushed that to that and
Trying
also
to
P.
reach
Ridge.
out.
Yeah, I reached out personally to both P. Ridge and Gravit and no takers,
Yeah.
which is okay. Hopefully they'll see how cool it is there and join next year.
My daughter's ready.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure she is.
Yeah.
I got something I want to bring up that I didn't get a chance to get on the discussion. And that's the permit for installation of hot water tank, hot water heater. About possibly getting a permit fee waived if it's going to be installed by a licensed plumber. I mean, the plumber tells me that the permit is going to could add anywhere from $250 to $500 to the cost of a hot water heater replacement.
Why would it add that additional cost if the permit's only $60?
Because they gotta go get the permit. I mean, he's gonna charge for his time to go get the
So hourly
permit.
rate.
And it takes more than one time to go get, to get the permit. If he goes for the permit one time and it's not available, then he's gonna charge for the second time, so plumbers charge for their time.
I wonder if, I don't know, Doug, if you know the answer to this, something like that kind of permit, can you get online or is it just in person?
I'm not sure if we have that one set up online, but we can if we don't.
We do.
Do we?
Subcontractor, just a subcontractor permit, that's online.
So they can file online, they just have to come in and pick it up and pay for it, I'm
I
assuming.
mean, they don't have to come in at all. It can all be handled virtually.
Oh, it can't?
Yeah, link to pay.
If they have
secure link to pay,
an
we
account
send-
with you,
No, we just send a secure link to pay via credit card. They just
and
pay
they process directly on,
through
okay.
the portal.
And they did that retro too, they needed to.
And our permit fees for residential are 30, commercial are 50
Okay.
for the plumbing, because it's a plumbing permit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially, like,
Yeah, it needs electrical.
Yeah, I know that the proper installation of hot water heater is a safety issue and very important that it be installed properly. I'm concerned that one thing about the permit is going to potentially encourage people to get someone other than a licensed plumber to install those, whether it be a handyman or they do it themselves, try to do it themselves, a neighbor, whatever the situation might be, anything other than a licensed plumber.
Mhm.
And I don't know how we won't even know that that took place, how we even gonna know that a permit was not obtained. I mean, we're not, I mean.
When you sell your house, they'll know. Home inspection would record when the heater was put in and then they would check for permits.
But that potentially does away with the safety issue, though.
Well, I think there's another safety issue that we haven't talked about, and that is having an expansion tank associated with a hot water system. Now, I don't know if that's a code requirement. Is that a code requirement, Mr.
Yes.
Tapp? It is. So if you don't have one, they need to install one on that system. Because I expect that we have a lot of houses in Bella Vista that don't have an expansion tank if they're still on their original hot water unit.
So the residential's $30 and the industrial is 50.
Commercial's 50.
Commercial's 50. So $30 is going to cost someone to go get a handyman rather than a plumber to install a hot water heater.
Hey, we've got a lot of senior citizens that are on fixed income. $30 is $30 now. Now, whether that will encourage them, I don't know. I mean, that seems to be a concern of some senior citizens, that it's not something that's really necessary. It's just another opportunity for the city to gouge them. That's what they think.
Is this emanate from state law? I thought this came from the state.
It does, but we set our permit fees.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the plumbing code on the installation of a hot water heater, it says nothing about a permit being required. But
I don't know much about this topic other than to say, and maybe Steve does or Doug or somebody, but someone at the state, I think it may have been the state fire marshal, said, by the way, you're supposed to be doing this, all you local places, and it kind of created a stir, and that's what's happened here as well. Am I right about that?
Yes, the same plumbing inspector.
state plumbing.
Plumbing inspector, okay. So that's all.
Just something we haven't been doing in the past, but we should have been doing.
Correct.
Yeah. Now it's caught up with us, and now we're implementing the program, and now everybody's complaining.
So, I mean, if it can be done online, does it cause any paperwork for our front desk or anybody anywhere in the process?
No paperwork, and it's all done on our permit entry system.
Your staff process that electronic application, so it's processed, but so there's some staff time that's involved, but that's normal. You got to process the permits.
So if a hot water heater is installed by a licensed plumber, then is there anything to be gained by that licensed plumber, his installation being checked by someone else?
When they get a permit, that allows our inspector to go out and inspect it, to make sure that it's correctly installed and safe. I'm not sure what you're asking about.
If it's installed by a licensed plumber, let's say on that permit, you go online, and if the installer for that hot water heater is a licensed plumber, you know, his name, license number, all that, then the permit fee be waived.
Can it be?
Yep.
If the mayor
City council.
signs off.
Do we go out and inspect those after they're installed?
Yes, we have to have a permit to go inspect.
Okay.
But
So there's
is-
an inspection.
But what is our inspectors are not licensed plumbers, right?
They
Or
are
are-
state licensed plumbing inspectors.
Huh?
They're state licensed plumbing inspectors.
Our building inspectors are.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Can a homeowner replace the hot water heater if it conforms with your code?
He wants to.
But he wouldn't have to get a permit, though. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, again, you're going to get caught when you sell your house.
You gotta get, he still has to get a permit.
Still have to get a permit. It's just the question is that do you have to have a licensed person to do the plumbing connection and the wiring connection if it's
If
electric?
you hire somebody, they've got to be licensed.
but if you do it yourself, how are you going to know that
It's going to get inspected.
there's not even going to inspect it if you don't get a permit? I mean,
Well-
if you're doing it yourself and you don't go online and get a permit, who's going to know that you did it yourself?
When you sell your house.
Huh? Nobody will know.
When you sell your house, it will. Because they're going to report. Some of the building inspector or some of the home inspectors will check for things that are done in the house to see, and if the local community requires a permit for doing that thing, they may check to see that a permit was issued to make sure that it was covered.
They could, that's typically the home buyer doing that, or
Yeah.
the home inspector.
So your point is what? That people will do things wrong and get away with it? That happens all the time in the world, and a lot of times your house catches on fire and blows out because you thought you were smart and could cut a corner.
Took a shortcut.
And then you find out why the rule was made.
It's like robbing banks, Mary. They ain't no problem till you get caught.
Yeah. Anyway,
You know, the $30, I mean, I don't know, I think it's probably important to get it permitted, so you know, and that you get the right person to install that hot water heater, because if it's not done correctly, it can cause all kinds of problems, right? And not just for the homeowner that lives there now, but as you go downstream for other homeowners, right? The $30 to me is nominal, I'll say that, I mean, I would rather encourage some people to get a permit and get a licensed installer to put the hot water heater in, because it's a safety issue, right? You know,
That is installed correctly.
it's installed correctly, because it's a big electrical problem, not just a water problem. So, I'll just lay that out there. If you want to write something up and you want to submit it, I might think about it some more, but as I said here now, it's like $30, they can get the permit online. I'd rather have people getting permitted. I don't want them to go doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
So a private property owner would go online and they can file and fill out the permit application too? Okay.
I think a private property owner, regardless of whether they are required to get a permit, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with getting a permit as long as if they can do it themselves.
Yeah.
As opposed to have to hire somebody to do all of that.
Yeah. So anyway,
Some are more mechanically inclined, if you will, and can take care of the plumbing and the electrical connections, make them
Because
proper and all that good
this
stuff.
permitting just kind of came out of left field for us in a way, right? It's not anything the city required. Now we say, hey, we need to do this. This is required by the state. So,
So it's new to people. They say, oh, hey, it's a no requirement.
well, I guess what I'm saying, even to us, right? We weren't requiring it before. So I don't think it's a bad thing to get a permit, and people know you get a licensed, installer to do it, and everybody knows it's been done, and it's been done correctly. So I don't want to discourage someone from not doing the right thing, over $30. So anyway.
Okay. So, thanks for bringing that up. The next item is not on the list, but was added last minute. Craig Hansel called me talking about restriping. So you want to explain it?
It kind of, how this evolved in my mind, I received an email, I'm sure all you guys did, about the striping that their Trailblazers are proposing to bring through CVS parking lot. I think it's, Colbert, I believe, was the last.
Justin, or Trails Lieutenant, yeah.
Okay. And, well, it kind of, I know there's places along 71 Business where they have, small cul-de-sacs or whatever that are in 55-mile-an-hour zones. And then what really brought the whole CVS thing kind of had me thinking about how we can make the intersection at Allen's. And I know that's a state highway, but I didn't know if the city could get into talks with the state or whatever, just to have a runoff lane to where people, there's a very diverse style of driving styles in the area. Some people come to a complete stop and make a right turn into Allen's. I mean, and there's some people that make a complete stop in a 55-mile-an-hour zone to turn into their neighborhood. And
You're
it
talking
creates
about the one up by Sonic?
Where Oldham goes there at
Yeah.
between the bank and something.
Right. And, it just got me to thinking, and I just didn't know if the street department, or us as a city, has the authority to restripe, kind of basically a turn lane into but
Who's driving on the shoulder?
right, just something, just to stripe it, because there are times where people's lack of awareness causes situations that I think that if we could address it at the state level or whatever, through the street department people or whoever it is that we need to talk to about having something like that considered to make intersections and stuff like that safer, because I know Allen's, I don't know how many accidents I've seen through that intersection, and I don't know how.
Is there a right turn lane there by?
No, it's the shoulder, so people's going to the shoulder,
Oh,
and you
But that's what I'm
realize that.
saying, that a lot of people, they'll come to almost a complete stop to make a correct right turn into there sometimes, and
Because you
it's
mentioned Wellington to me, is that
Yep,
the same?
and well, there's a subdivision, there's one, it's one of those subdivisions off over there also that,
Yeah,
you know, it's one of those small subdivisions that's just right off the highway. And, you know, you'll have people just throw up their brakes out of nowhere, you know, to make that right turn. And, you know, it just causes a chain reaction.
yeah,
And then that was the other thing that I was asking about was that I didn't know, with the bike, I don't remember what it was called, the bike, it's a bike road that,
It's a sharing thing with the private property
Yeah.
owners.
the concern that I have with that is that the new on-ramp right there by Station 1 in the mayor's office, you know, I've seen people coming on right there with bicycles, and that is not good, because, I mean, I've seen, you know, motorcyclists, car drivers, whatever, people either just fly on with reckless abandon, or they will just come to a complete stop to try to thread their way back into traffic, and then you throw a bicyclist into that mix. And I just didn't know if there was enough room to strike some kind of lane onto that, if that is going to be the new normal.
You're talking about southbound or northbound there?
Southbound.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah, not up Lakeshire, coming from the mayor's office or fire station 1. Yeah.
yeah, it's all the time. It's
Going
terrifying.
on.
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
Southbound on going
Correct.
southbound.
Going south.
Yeah, that's,
so there's bikes getting on there, is that what you're saying?
yeah, they do.
They're starting
They're
to.
starting to, but it's mostly people not understanding how to merge onto a highway.
That's what my concern is.
That's
That
where
as we're
traffic
completing the highway or the road expansion of Lancashire, if that's even a consideration, you know, now that it's a declared bike sharing road, you know, if we could catch it early enough.
Mhm.
Down at CBS, you were talking about on the northbound is where that sharing was going to go through the back lot of CBS. My thought was that maybe it would be desirable to talk to the state, and at the driveway, the south entrance driveway going northbound, is that you open that up and then make a bike path on the green area, pave that, and take them off the highway at that
Well,
point,
I
take
think
them
that's
around
what
the corner.
the proposal is.
I mean, the bridge one is,
Huh?
there's some reconstruction happening, from my understanding, like there was the washout, and so it's all temporary right now.
Well, I called Karen Hunt, who's over the street department, about the striping issue. I'm not sure I described it the best to her, now that I've heard her. But, because I asked if she'd be here tonight, and she had some conflict, so what she did is she got a hold of RDOT and got back to me. So here's what she said. I spoke with Drew Vining, the district maintenance engineer of District 9, and she gave his phone number. On currently striped roads, RDOT aims for restriping on a 2-year cycle.
Okay.
If there is no current striping, or if the striping needs changed, anyone could request a study through the RDOT district.
Okay.
So if we think of something we want to do striping-wise, we could bring it up to them and say, hey,
Well, I would just, and that's all I'm getting at, is that if we could look into something like that, just to, I think just something so slight,
mhm,
you know, people will follow a line in the road. I mean,
yeah,
more so than, you know, well, it's a right turn, so I have to slow completely down instead of being aware of what's going on behind. And I'm not faulting anybody, you
Yeah.
know, and saying that. I'm just saying that people drive different ways. And if we can make getting off of a 55-mile-an-hour street or a 45-mile-an-hour street safer and prevent accidents in those intersections or something like that, I think that would be a good thing. So, just something to consider.
yeah.
You know, I can give you a holler through the week, or I'll touch base with Karen and see.
Or you could, yeah, why don't you touch base with Karen? Maybe you can make a couple drawings
Yeah,
of what you're, you know, now.
I will. I can do some drawings, take some pictures, you know, to illustrate my point, I guess. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
articulating
So,
correctly.
you know, we had a few years ago, somebody, maybe it was the mayor, brought up, the prior mayor, about that intersection where Oldham is. And he said, if anybody can figure out some better ways to, something to do there, let me know. Because people turning, if you're headed north and turning left onto Oldham, you got no sight at all. If somebody's the person going south turning left, which I've been, has pretty good sight. But the people trying to turn up Oldham, man, you are blocked, and it's scary with people going that fast.
Well, and I'm almost hesitant to say a scary word roundabout, but I think that would be a classic roundabout in my mind, and then even Lancashire.
That actually is a logic, I thought of that too, that's a logical place.
And I
for
think
one.
that Lancashire and
Yeah.
Forest Hills,
Yeah.
that light is ridiculous. I mean, but I think we've already proven that the people that come through Lancashire are habitual. Some people don't pay a whole lot of attention, so the gates are gone.
Yeah.
But I think if there was a roundabout there, that would be a traffic calming
Yeah.
thing, and then we can just get rid of
Yeah.
that whole light.
So-
Because there's so much that just moves through that intersection, I think it could be more efficient than what it is.
A lot of traffic, because there's no sensors in there.
Yeah.
Supposedly you can buy some, retrofit the thing with some sensors that are less expensive than the looping of wires. But even then, there's a cost, and it's a maintenance,
I mean,
ongoing maintenance cost.
Looking forward as a community, I mean, I think that might be something to consider.
You know,
The roundabout.
a number of years ago, we looked at trying to get a light there, and there was a traffic light
Coming
coming
off
out
the
to Oldham.
Yeah, yeah.
And, of course, the state wouldn't even consider it then because of being so close to the other.
Yeah, it is a little tricky.
But we talked about trying to close that intersection, and that created such an uproar that.
Well, going back to, folks, going back to 71, if you'll recall, Justin Culpepper has a grant in for an engineering study about 71. They're talking about changing that and having bike paths on the side and all kinds of things. And secondarily, as you know, Blue Crane is doing a study and is supposedly going to come forward with something relatively soon. And I know there's a focus on their part on that area 71. And so I think we have some things in the works that are, I mean, it's not a bad idea about that right turn thing on Allen's, but as far as any dynamic things.
Oh, yeah.
there's
No, I mean,
stuff in the works,
I'm just
more or
throwing it
less.
out there.
If you got a bike lane on either side of 71, and you're right, that's the equivalent to playing Russian roulette.
Well, they're talking about having grass in between.
Secondary
and
median in
It's
between.
totally different, totally different situation what they have now.
Do we know when we should hear about the grant for either the study or the education piece as well? We also had asked for.
Yeah, both those grants are pending. I'm not sure about the exact time we'll hear back. He was, I guess I'd phrase it as surprisingly optimistic
I love
About it.
Take it.
about those grants.
I have
Yes.
a question for you, Mayor. Who's going to maintain the grass cutting between the sidewalk and the curb line on the new section between the two bridges?
Got somebody back there raising his hand.
State will mow it twice a year, and if we want to mow other than that, we'll include it in our agreement.
I guess the simple question is, why didn't we have them pour that with the colored concrete, and you don't have to maintain it at all?
I can answer that. That got designed like 7, 8 years ago before.
Yeah, a little change like that, though. Yeah. Anyway.
We like the green grass in Double Vista.
But did you ever try to maintain that stuff and make it look good all the time? It's a huge cost.
So unless somebody else has something else, I think that's pretty much it. And, you know, we'll be meeting next week at 6, but the council, we're having the pre-meeting here at 5 with the students, the youth council. So appreciate it if you could attend that. Thank you, we're adjourned.
Just get all those notes.
Well, I'm going to write down
Thank you.